Hello everyone, my name is Annuel, and today we are going to be recording our account overview for Epic 7. It was a pretty hectic season. I know it's a little bit late because we should have uploaded this kind of a while ago, and I was trying to do it on stream, but then I figured I kept getting distracted, so I wasn't able to actually record it fully. But we're going to go through the account and just talk about the season and the units that we use. So here's Peira. Now this Peira I actually recently just geared after preseason started. But I did use her during main season, and I did put some pretty good gear on her at first because she felt really good into Death Dealer Ray and to Shu. And if they're not picking very fast, I would just slam Peira, and I would just go into them so I can unbuffable them, which would refrain Shu from doing any pop damage to me, as well as it can help me control Death Dealer Ray because he can't put Pestilence on his team. And as long as I have someone like a Schniel on my team, then he can't press S3 on DDR to control me. She also served as a mitigation, so if I was down a knight, he would serve for the Arias in that place. I think Peira was pretty decent this season. I wouldn't say she was pickable every single game, but I think she was pretty good. Let's talk about Eligos. Eligos, in my opinion, was had a really good rise in fame due to his buff. I think he was really good. I think he's definitely one of the counters to Flan, and he's definitely a very strong, aggressive, and cleave unit. I can't say I had a lot of mileage with him due to my general playstyle of wanting to pivot into a turn 2 draft or a slower draft. Although I could play slightly aggressively for the season due to having Peira, I will 100% say that I don't think I was able to utilize Eligos as much as I could have because of the fact that I'm at hearts a turn 2 player. I do think he's a wonderful unit to take into Flan 100%, so that's the reason why I still have him geared. But otherwise, I think for a cleaver, he seems pretty strong overall. Next is Peira. Don't mind the 5-piece speed set. that's where my stats align. I think Peira was one of my staples for most of the season after she came out. I think she was just so fun to play. I just really love playing Peira. She's so aggressive, and I can use her to pivot into a slower draft as well, or I can use her to pivot into to maintain my speed and keep playing aggressively, which is the reason why I like her so much. Because I can slow down into a tank draft, where she provides a cleanse for my team and provides support for my team, as well as if you run her on Tooth, which I did towards the end of the season after I banned Sarpuri and Hallelujah, you can run her on Tooth so she can actually be like a secondary damage dealer. The flexibility of this character is so good, and I just love her for it. She was originally at 280 speed with a 17 speeder on the left side, and I was running two 19 speeders on the right side. Then I picked up this 20 speeder near the end of the season, so I put it on her, and I dropped one of my right side pieces for an attack ring, so that way I can get more pop damage on Peira, so she's just a little bit more for me. Otherwise, beforehand she was around 20k HP, but with the attack ring, we're down to 17k HP, but because of Sweet Miracle, we really don't care. The attack necklace just helps the pop damage do a little bit more, so she just provides a little bit more for the team, and I liked it for that. Here I see Phantom Politis. We're on an ER build. Because of the fact that we're generally not fast for the rank that we're supposed to be at, Emperor rank, I decided to pick C Phantom Politis as an ER cheese. Now, although I did start banning her at some point in the season, I think C Phantom Politis is still as strong as she was before. Now, I do think, although her win rate did suffer, you can notice if you check Arcade seats, it's not as high as before, which means she's obviously easier to counter, which makes sense. She's like a year old at this point. But she's still fairly strong because she just cuts off so many options, right? Because she cuts off Fighting Spirit, Focus, right? And she's still an aggressive unit. So I still think she's fairly strong, although she's a bit easier to play into, but at the same time, she just cuts off so many things just by existing, which makes her so strong. Her as an ER cheese means I have no fear of picking her into Harsetti, because I can just resist, and if the RNG is at least good enough, I can take a turn pushback and not care because I have the ER. ER cheese is just because of the fact that I'm slower than the other person, which just gives me a slight advantage when I'm playing against people. I did not have Rat for the whole entire season, so we'll just skip over this unit. If you're wondering how I have S, I just picked up Rat randomly, and I had to literally 5 choose my waiting room. But we'll just skip over Rat because we never had her for the whole entire season. We literally picked her up after in precincts. Gala Lilias, I think I only used once, so I think I'll just skip over her. But overall, I think I'm just not fast enough to use her once again for my rank. But if I had to use her, I think because of the way I play, I couldn't use her to much of my benefit, much like Eligos. I think I was better off picking other things instead of picking her because I don't have her around like 270. I think 270 is kind of the greatest part, the better way to like play her around where I'm like around the Emperor rank. But I don't have that speed level, so like when I'm picking her, I have to be really careful if someone's playing faster than me. Because even a Diene, right? Diene's average speed is 260 speed, right? As you can see, my Gala is 260 speed. So if I don't outspeed the Diene, they just press S3 and I die, and she can't do anything, right? So that's particularly the reason why I didn't pick her. I'll just show the gear here. It's not that good. Oh yeah, show gear. Monk, I stole a ring from her. She was using something else, but I decided not to put it back on. She's still using this necklace because it had some speed on it. For this preseason, I've been rolling right side gear to fix my right gear, my right side gear issue, because I knew for a while my right side gear is not that strong. So I've been trying to take my time to roll a little bit more right side gear, and especially speed effectiveness rings, which is just trying to fix all my fodder gear. I think that Monk she definitely felt a little bit weaker than previous seasons. But she definitely was someone you still wanted to have geared for the situation for it calls for it. I think having her around as high effectiveness as possible is the best way to build her now over speed, which is why a lot of people have 250 monks instead of very fast monks, because they have high effectiveness. You really want to tag over anything. If you miss her defense on monk, if you miss any debuffs on monk, it feels really bad for her. So I generally think effectiveness is really important over speed. If you can build faster and still have good effectiveness, I think that is possible. But I think effectiveness first, then speed. Otherwise, she hasn't innately changed for what she plays into. If your opponent has some slow picks, they have some units I can counter. Maybe you want to full control their team so you can keep them locked down with a seal, you're going to be using Monk. It doesn't really change what she initially was used for, but she just is not played as often. Luna is still as strong as ever. I am rocking a 250 build on the slower side with a little bit more bulk. The only thing I would change about this build is to up her effectiveness, but otherwise, and also like fix her boot. I actually rolled a new boot. I haven't put it on yet, because I have to move around my gear. But this is what our Luna is using. Just pure HP, a little bit of F, but it's mostly just a tank. I think the only issues I ran into with this build is if I first pick her and then my opponent starts cleaving, because it's not fast enough to interrupt a cleaver. But otherwise, it is good enough if they first pick a Peira, because then my Luna is slower than them, right? Which puts them in a really bad spot because they can hold their skill and don't put up their evasion, and I can come in and maybe swoop in the kill or get some additional damage, and it just puts them in a really bad spot. So having a slower Luna just felt really good for that reason. And also because of it being tankier, it's harder to kill, so I can have a lot more value in that. So it's also really good because the speed change my Peira. So I press S3 on my Peira, I get swift attack, I can S2 with Luna, take an extra turn in S3. But it does a lot of stuff for me. I just prefer the slower build. The only thing I would change is obviously just make her a little bit bulkier. I think if I had a better boot, I can be bulkier. I stole a piece from Zio in preseason because I was not using him. But Zio practically had, let's say, I forgot what piece it was. It had speed on it. And it was what he was using. It was like this. I don't have a very fast Zio, just so you know this piece was on him. I don't have a very fast Zio because I just don't have a ton of speed gear overall. So that's the reason why he is so slow, right? So for that reason, I don't pick him too often, and as well as he gets picked before I can do anything. Zio is usually taken by cleavers, so he's usually taken up if a person is cleaving. Otherwise, usually there's never really a spot to take Zio unless you're trying to pivot a Zio pivot, which unfortunately I do not have Zio like those pivots geared right now. The only pivots I have geared would be like Flan, but obviously you can't just have one Zio pivot geared. It's just not enough. You need two. You need one on your 4 and then one on your 5. That's pretty much how it is. It's to make sure that your Zio has someone to follow up with, and I just don't have 2 of them geared, which is kind of hindered the reason I couldn't pick Zio as much as a pivot. Otherwise, the faster player just took it, so I didn't really have much experience with him. Lenny was a preseason unit for me, so we'll skip. Laia, I think she was still solid. I don't think she was as highly used as previous seasons, but I think she was still very solid. I did have immunity set on her, but I moved it onto my rat. It was something alongside of this and this, and then some random speed HP boot that we had, right? I think it was something like this. We had more HP. I think it was probably something like this, around this, but I think Laia was just solid. She was okay into Hellion Lua. I think depending on the matchup, it didn't feel okay for me. I think that was just a draft problem, so I won't completely put this on Laia, because as a whole, I don't know how to fight Hellion Lua. She's still a good counter pick into Monk if she's picked, and she is still a cleanser at heart. She also provides dual attacks and cooldown reduction, so she still has a lot of value. I also like taking her if I do put like a force band on 3 like Monk, and then take Laia right after to steal away one of the counters that my opponent can take. So that means their only counter pick they can take is LRK, and if I have like an Ilanov or like a Diene, it makes his LRK just simply there for like turn reset. And or I can just straight up ban the LRK, and I can just deal with them with the Monk. I think Laia is just okay of a unit. I don't think she's like OP as she used to be, but she's still a very, very valuable thing to have as like a counter pick or like a supportive unit to help like carry your team a little bit farther. She's definitely not an anchor. Beforehand, she was an anchor that you would protect until you get guitar and then you toss it. But she's 100% just a support unit now, just to help support your team. Here's my Achates. She's at 240 speed, 2 cut, 300 speed if I'm correct. I don't remember what was the math I did. But she's at 243 speed, 2 cut, like 300 speed, which is whatever Zio goes, or maybe a Muna goes. I should cut straight to the front of the line, which I can push up maybe a Belian, my Peira, something to the front of the line, right? So I can disrupt whatever aggression is coming my way, usually some type of cleave. I didn't particularly enjoy playing Achates into Luna, which is the primary thing that Achates is really good into. I don't know, I didn't have much good luck using Achates into Luna, especially when they just counter-picked and picked Celine on 3, which means I have to hold my buttons, and if they decide to press S3 and maybe something goes wrong, Celine would jump into me and I would maybe lose. So I particularly don't really 100% enjoy this unit to play into Luna. But if my opponent is playing aggressively like a Zio, and maybe the draft calls for it, I can take her and then take Belian, and if they both get their draft, I push a Belian to the front and just press S3. And I think that's a really funny thing I've done. I don't know if I have a video on it, but it felt really good to do. Here is Diene. I think Diene's another unit I didn't get 100, like a really good mileage on. I do think Diene is really good of a unit. Her buff did wonders for her. I think not being like around 260 is a little bit hard, because eventually although for first turn is not the worst, eventually in turn cycling, being a little bit faster does wonders for her, because eventually when her buffs go down, her being able to take her next turn is very crucial in order to help get her buffs back up, right? Which is why the faster builds are just much better. Otherwise, she's pretty much I think she's going to be somewhat of a required unit if you don't have the Elenov, because of the pen resistance. She's very much a very good supporter, and full cleanse on the S3 is very much it's very good, especially for Harsetti matchup. It's just very, very good. I'll be 100% honest, Veronica is one of the characters I continue to take gear from, so she's not as good as she was before. I gave her some fodder ring that I had sitting on my account for like decades, and because of the fact that I'm like, I don't really care about this unit, and I gave her some fodder body that is not even reforged, because it's like I never get to use her. Veronica is 100%, 99% of the time stolen by a person playing faster than you. So giving her actually real gear didn't really matter to me, because, well, I never actually get to use her. There has been literally one match out of like the 500 I played that I got to use Veronica, because the faster player always takes her as a cleave support. She is no longer a BBK counter, she is a BBK support. So let's just go over her. Lilias I actually never really got to use, so I'll go over her. B-Dom I actually had to bring back because I started having people pick Monk on me quite, I think it was like Lua. I don't know why, but Blue Lua came back, and I was like, please stop. So I got her geared, just as a counter pick. There's nothing too crazy, it's just gear to make her function. I geared this unit for fun, and I ran out of Reforged mats. I think I have a little bit left. No, I ran out of Reforged mats. Either way, the right side pieces are not that good. But I just literally I just put on some random gear I had on her to get to 210 effectiveness to specifically counter Miki. And since I never really played Lua or would never use her in a regular matchup, this is literally 100% only made to counter Miki. Because I knew I was not picking this into anything else but a Miki when I needed a 4-5 to counter a Miki 3P. That is pretty much it. If I had Wreck and Roll-Water, I'd just gear her instead, but I don't. So I use this instead. This is my train wreck of a Solitaria that I gave one of the better gears on my account to. She has literally every stat in the world, because this is how I lost so many times in many different ways with Solitaria. This is the way I ended up on this build. It has enough ER so I don't get randomly death broken. It has enough effectiveness so I hopefully tag anything I need to tag. It has a fair amount of speed. It has a fair amount of bulk. That is literally how we ended up on this build. Because I kept dying to defense breaks. I kept dying because I was too squishy. I died because I couldn't land any debuffs. This is literally how we ended up on this build. I didn't use Flan that much, but we did keep taking gear from her. Kind of the same thing with Veronica. So like she has a bunch of unreforged stuff, because I don't have it, because like I didn't really use her. I think she had like 250 effectiveness and like 250 speed before. And she was like one of the ZL bridges I was using. She's also really good with Peira. But I did take her gear off, so I don't really have the same exact build I had before. Krau was not available, so we'll just skip over him. Elena was not as useful last season. I think she was only good into people who decided to play Briar Witch Cleave, but that was pretty much it. I don't think there was really anything else that people played. LRK was pretty good towards the end of the season, towards like our Harsetti matchups. He's really good in Harsetti matchups. And he's also a counter pick towards Monk, another counter pick if needed, if they take like Monk on like 3. But he's like really insanely good for Harsetti matchup, as well as if you have the Ilanov picked on free first pick, I think he's pretty good. Now I didn't have Ilanov the entire season, so I can't really say how good he is with Ilanov, but like I do think he's 100% amazing in Harsetti matchup, and I just have this speed here just in case I need to pick him as a counter pick to Monk. Schniel is the person that you pick when you see DDR. So like you see DDR, you slam this guy. The only reason he saw a little bit less play for me towards the end of the season is because of Tori. But otherwise, if Schniel somehow gets a turn before Tori, the defense buff does keep us alive, and we do usually survive. But otherwise, I think Schniel is still a very much required unit to have, just so like to be good in like the DDR matchup. The boot is probably the worst piece on her. I don't have a lot of torrent set gear, so that's probably the reason why. Tori definitely was one of the strongest units towards the end of the season, so having her geared was kind of like a necessity. Rebel Sight was a little bit hard to gear, especially because I don't have very strong torrent set pieces on my account. So I just took the boots because it was the least, it was the easiest to just to slap on, I guess. But she was definitely just paired with Frost all the time. She felt a little bit weaker when not paired with Frost because of that God combo. Otherwise, I think, yeah, she was mostly picked most of the games. She was pretty obnoxious to deal with if you don't draft properly or take Krau or like any pop damage. She was definitely very obnoxious, but she was just very strong. And she's even stronger with Current Frenzy. My Rimuru has changed, but I did use him to try to counter Tori, and it didn't go too well. Right now, it's nothing. I did take his gear off for preseason, but I think I was rocking a 4K attack Rimuru to try to counter Tori. It didn't go super well half the time, and it went okay the other half of the time. The biggest issue is when Tori is paired with Ross, it makes it a lot harder, because if you trigger Ross's barrier, Rimuru's fixed damage won't be enough to proc. Alright, let's talk about Politis. Politis, I think, was premium anti-cleave character. I still have no Reforged mats. Man, someone save me. She was the premium anti-cleave character. I think she was very good. I think I just have the ring here because it just has a good, okay defense. Otherwise, all the other pieces are just here to maintain good ER, good effectiveness. The ER here is pretty negligible in terms of cleavers, I think. But like, it helped me every so often, like maybe to resist pushbacks. Especially when I have ER imprint on my team, it does help bring this up. Especially my ERCC Phantom Politis helps bring up this effect resistance. So it's mainly here to interrupt people who pick C Phantom Politis cleave. It's also here to interrupt, maybe, I think Teiyu was available towards the end of the season. To help to interrupt Teiyu and like some other things. It's also Crown to help disrupt the opponent. And I think that's pretty much it for that. Here is our Tywin. I think we needed to change out our ring, but we didn't get to do it yet. But yeah. Tywin was not a very highly picked unit, but he was pretty good in terms of if they have like debuffers and so, we just take Tywin. And I honestly don't even remember. If we have C Phantom Politis as a first pick, we can take Tywin on 3 as long as there's no Hwayoung open, or we already took Hwayoung. Or they're playing innately like in a way where we can pick Tywin, right? Or Tywin's a good 4 or 5, and especially if you have C Phantom Politis, or they have like some like debuffs that you need to cleanse. I think Tywin's good in those situations. Otherwise, my artifact's not maxed out because I just did this. I was running Noble Wolf on him before because I just didn't have any more tank artifacts left. Because I just had a lot of Bastion. I needed more Bastions. Like if I had Bastion, I'll be playing it on him, but I didn't. We have plus 18 here only because of the fact that we just combined all of those from my storage just so we can get it up on him. I think Krau was very good of a character. He felt like a definite requirement in order to fight Flans and Tories, because I had elemental disadvantage as well as horse punishment, right? Horse can one-shot Flan. Tori cannot directly kill Krau, meaning that you keep your mitigation up, which makes it harder for Tori to kill things. He definitely was one of the strongest knights in the game next to Ross for the after the balance patch, and I think he still want to have him geared for as long as Tori and Flan are still really good, right? He does a lot for your team. He has defense buff, speed up for himself, broke to maintain control, as well as his horse as punishment as soon as his HP gets really low. I do think he's slightly weaker without Holy Sack, because that means he doesn't have that reinforcement of being at low HP. So like the moment he dies, right? Or because like if you ever get in a situation where Krau is somehow left alone, it's really hard to keep him alive, right? If he's left alone, or it's maybe like a 2-man, right? So if they just straight up kill off the Krau, then you don't have the Holy Sack to fall back on to get your one last horse in, right? Which makes it a little hard, especially in like end game situations where you need to make decisions of, should I horse now or should I horse later, right? Because once you Holy Sack, right, it's literally now or never. I don't have a relive. When you don't have Holy Sack, it's okay, do I horse now? Do I maybe save one more turn? Maybe I can survive an extra turn? Like, you have to worry a lot more about Holy Sack. But I ran Bastion because the mini set is so required now, and yeah, it helps protect the backline. I think Krau is definitely one of the MVPs of the season. Celine is definitely a counter pick. She is just very strong. She's a non-attack skill counter. They pick a non-attack skill, you can pretty much slam Celine in most situations. It just helps hard punish your opponent. I think the one thing I don't like is I don't have any Imprints and I don't have a plus 30 Storm Sword. I have gotten free to play by this artifact too many times, and it did cost me some losses because of the fact I didn't have an attack buff to kill. I think Lionheart serving was pretty bad for most of the season, so I'll just go over her. Okay, here's our Ross. I think Ross is definitely also insanely good of a tank last season as well. I really wanted him on protection set, but unfortunately I just didn't have any protection set gear left over. I do think a mini set was slightly a requirement. I used to play him on Bastion, but then I swapped him to Aureus because I realized I needed Aureus Knights more than I needed Bastion Knights. Although Bastion is still super strong, so don't get me wrong, but like I needed somebody who can Aureus, and if I'm picking Ross every game, I decided to take Aureus instead. What this also does is when you pair him with Tori, it makes it harder for your opponent to kill Tori because some of the damage is getting shared into Ross, right? But Ross as a whole, he provides so much. He has self-healing to keep himself alive, defense buff for the whole entire team to, bulk up, guaranteed dual attack, burn, and 85% death break chance, and some debuff strap on this one. That's a lot for the team. So I think Ross was definitely super strong, and if he was either the strongest tank or the second strongest tank next to Krau for me. Aria was a super niche pick most of the time. I did bring it out a couple of times, but like she was definitely hard to pick because I had Mort out in the open. As of this preseason, I'm pre-banning Mort, which makes it a lot more accessible to use, but I think for the near future, Mort may be getting pre-banned a lot more. But otherwise, in the situations where Mort was not available, or in a situation where Mort cannot be picked, she was pretty good in Harsetti matchup to face off against maybe Tori's and Flan's, as long as the situation calls for it. Now, it's a little bit harder to pick her into Flan with because of her anti-counter, but it felt like somewhat of a safe pick because it just means that they cannot just straight up kill Aria because, well, of elemental disadvantage. Fenne was kind of a niche pick. She felt okay. She was mostly picked into like the injury units, of course. I think that, or if they picked a bunch of fire units. The matchups with Fenne is a little awkward because it has to go correctly. Obviously, how all matches have to go for you to win it. But if you fight Shu, you have to be very careful because if for some reason the Shu is, if they have a Peira, for instance, I think they can kill you before you can do anything on Fenne because the injury would work against you because you're stacking up more injury for the Shu to pop. But if the turn order is good for you, the injury is more beneficial to you and you kill off their team before the Shu can do anything to you. So it's not really a given matchup, but I can't say it's a bad matchup for Fenne. It's just not 100% given depending on your opponent, their opponent's trapped, or maybe like how fast they are. Otherwise, into fire units, she's pretty good. She's pretty good into fire units. Jenua, I honestly wish I had a mini set the whole entire season. If I had a mini set on him, I think it would be very good into Mort. Otherwise, if your opponent is picking a lot of like burst damage and so, he was pretty good into that. If they picked AoE and didn't have any Penraz, he was pretty good. He was somewhat good into young Senya during the early season. The only reason I say somewhat is because usually they take Mort, and for some reason Mort has a really good hit chance into Jenua. And because of the fact I don't have a mini set, I could not take those hits, which is why I say somewhat. If for some reason they don't land on Jenua, then he's pretty good. Otherwise, yeah, Jenua is still a very, very strong DPS. Obviously not as strong before because he now has his counters in play, but he's still very, very strong up at DPS, and you should still have him geared. Young Senya has my worst artifact, and I also took gear from her as well. I had her on an immunity boot before that Ross was using, but I stopped using Young Senya entirely towards the end of the season because, well, she just wasn't very useful to me anymore. This one. It was this one. I just ended up not using her as much as I used to anymore. I don't know what happened. I think it's because of the rise of fire units like Tori and Ross, as well as I think it's Tori and Ross, because Tori Ross is very strong in the Harsetti matchup, which is the reason why Young Senya is not as good. And also it's pretty easy to counter Young Senya. I think that was particularly the reason why Young Senya just didn't see as much play anymore. So for that reason, I kind of took gear from her, which is the reason why you see 85s. I don't remember the last time I actually used Young Senya. I just have her because she's still very strong of a unit to play against in like to use in like Guild Wars, but like that's pretty much it. I haven't really used her too much in RTA, which kind of explains why there's 85s here. It's probably kind of just random gear I slammed on here because I didn't really care. I don't think I showed Jenua's gear, so there you go. Violet, I didn't get too much mileage out of. I think he's good, but like he's just good. He's also pretty good with Peira. He's very good with Peira. I used to run a destruction one on 220 speed, so I can bridge up Violet all the way up to Peira. And if you are able to get that combo together, Violet is very, very, very strong. After his buff, he was very good for a while. And it's like he's very scary to fight against, simply because like you know your opponent is gonna go super aggressive the moment they pick Violet with Peira. But if you have Eligos, you just shoot him and he gets hit. Otherwise, I don't know why people really stop taking him. I guess it's due to unreliability. But like if you have Peira, I think he's still very good. But he's sort of a scam unit because of his evasion. I'm planning on swapping my Mort to a speed build and just dropping my crit damage. But I don't have like I don't really have like insane gears on him. I think he does want immunity, which is the reason why I'm on Bastion. Yeah, otherwise I think he's pretty much a strong unit. He shuts off counters. Has really good damage. If you build on, he does give himself speed buff, so he has good cycling. All in all, he's just super strong unit. He does everything. He does a lot. He has self-healing on his S3 too. He was a good counter pick, as well as he's a good counter pick into like a Miki's, good counter pick into like BBKs. He's mostly a counter pick unit, but if you just wanted to slam Mort, you have a high chance of winning. I also have him on Bastion just to slam as a Bastion Knight when I need it. Otherwise, Mort was just very, 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 very good the entire season. I think people started pre-betting him towards the end of the season too. Abyssal Yufine. I really loved using Abyssal Yufine after the balance patch. I started spamming her on like 2. I thought she was like just very, very strong of a unit. If I were to replace anything on her, I would definitely be her necklace. I would hope to get a better necklace so I can do a lot more with her. Just so I can get a lot more damage. But she was very good. She cuts out CR. She's very tanky. Can Elbridge cheese her team. And with the moment she presses S3, she can take out like 1 or 2 units. She has a built-in counter attack, so she doesn't need to build counter. And her damage is AoE. Like I think just the value of her passive, just being able to cut CR, was so valuable when fighting alone with Peira. It just made her such a very, very, very strong second pick, as well as really good into cleave, so you can pick anti-cleave. All right, so we have Flan here. I had her on counter set, which was very fun to like when Eligos shoots her or something, you just watch a counter attack happen and it just shoots them. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it 100% real with you. I don't think counter really did 100% for me. There was very rare matchups where counter actually worked, so I might just put her back on destruction. But Flan as a whole was a super, really strong and just obnoxious unit to fight against. She was literally one of the strongest DPS in the game, and it's kind of insane that she's just kind of insane. She does have like counters, but it usually was never reliable counters, which is made her so obnoxious. I think I had her pre-banned for most of the early season before I let her out because I felt like I was very restricted without having her out. But she was like super strong. She was super strong. And she still is very, very strong. So it's like almost having her gear just like a must for RTA. RB I didn't use too much. Don't worry about this artifact. I had this on for farming. And I had him on counter set before. On basket. But I don't really think I used RB too often. I didn't have Elena for all of the season at all, so I would skip over her. Alencia I didn't have too much. I didn't feel good picking Alencia. Mostly because I had Harsetti banned for most of the season, so I never had a reason to pick her. The moment that I took out Harsetti, I don't think she was very good as a unit in comparison to like the other Harsetti matchup gods. So I can't really say much for her. I had a better ring on her, but I took it off. Because once again, I just didn't really feel good. It was this one. It didn't really feel good to use her. So I took it off. This is my tank Haste. I used one of my events craft on her. It was primarily meant to fight cleave. Because if you have 2 tanks on your team and one of them is BM Haste, how do they kill the BM Haste to beat your second tank? It makes it super hard for you to get cleaved. Because if you have a mitigation tank plus a tank Haste, your Haste is almost impossible to kill, and you have a mitigation tank as well. So it makes it insanely hard for them to kill Haste, and if they accidentally kill something else, now you have Blood Aura and you just dunk on something, right? Now, unfortunately, into the face of Veronica, she does stun Haste, which is why I tried to have some lingering ER, so I can probably like at least have some to try to resist. But they usually have enough to tag me anyways, which kind of means just build more bulk. But like having the ER just helps every now and then. But having a tank Haste was just so fun because the moment they tried to, to cleave you and you just take 0 damage because you're so bulky, it's just very funny. Senya had to pull out towards the end of the season. She's not the best unit to fight against. I'm pretty sure I can speak for everyone, or she's just so RNG heavy. But I don't have much to say about Harsetti. She's really just annoying of a character. I do think she's easy to play against in some situations, but she's just annoying to fight against. It's not so I did let her out because I needed the option to fight faster players, because I can catch a lot of people off guard if Harsetti's open and my opponent's picking fast, and I just needed that option because of the fact that I'm not as fast as I should be for my rank. So I just needed that as a counter pick option. Otherwise, I played her on injury just so I can have because usually HP boosters are played in Harsetti matchup, and I just didn't have any effectiveness gear left. So I just played this Harsetti here. This is my 3F Belian. It is slow because I didn't roll enough boots with speed main stat and HP substat on counter set. So because I didn't have a ton of it, I just ran HP boots, and I played units like Achates to push her up. The 3F damage does a lot because of the fact that I have this much HP, but if I were to change anything, it would 100% be a different ring because that's too much effectiveness, but I don't mind the effectiveness because that means I just get to tag things. She was also really good into like Tori and like cleavers, of course. But like the 3F damage is insanely high on Belian. It really is. Okay, this is our Armin. She used to have my Albedo's protection set gear, but I didn't have enough, so I just got her. I tossed some 80 gear towards the end of the season because I didn't have a lot of proc set gears, and it worked. It is primarily just for anti-cleave. So because if you don't know already, this thing has 30% single target hit, so it's really strong. So I just used her as an anti-cleave unit, and yeah, it felt really good because like it felt really hard for them to beat me because If they're single target cleaving me, well, their damage is reduced by 30%. So it made it really hard for them to kill me. I don't think I use Rana that much at all. My career is very slow, only because of the fact that I have triple defense right side. I used to be on speed set, which is why having triple defense right side was pretty good. But I swapped around to counter set, and the stats are not too good. But like it's okay. Karina is not super strong. Amiki is kind of better. So she's primarily there just to counter Tori, or if they're picking a bunch of fire units that can get countered by Karina. This is our protection set Albedo. She is pretty much our secondary option into cleavers. Or primary option, I'm not too sure. It really depends on what they're picking. But this is just the option we picked is the anti-cleave. Landia was kind of a fraud the entire season. I don't think Landia was that good the entire season. This is our Miki. The Miki could be way better. I think I have like way too low ER. But like Miki was just super strong. She was one of the best counter pick DPS in the game. Especially into cleave, as long as you can deal with the Veronica, or if they don't pick a Veronica, you take a Miki. Also really good into Tori, and she just felt really strong into cleavers as a whole. Or like maybe like BBK, she's also really good in BBK. Also some Harsetti matches is pretty good. I'm pretty sure before Diene's buff she was pretty good in Harsetti matchup too. Okay, here's my BBK. My BBK is actually pretty bad. But it's just 150 ER and just damage. Because of the fact that I know I can't really build a good speed BBK, as well as the way my general playstyle, I just run an ER BBK. BBK as a whole is just a really strong unit that can work on a few builds with diversity. Definitely just a really strong, just OP DPS that's always been this way, but with the help of the EE, she's been very strong ever since her EE got released. She pretty much can fight most, if not most of, like, I'm pretty sure like everything in the game. Like, she has her counters, but she really can be used into most, if not everything in the game. I think Hwayoung was actually one of my favorite units to play in the season. She's really good into cleave, she's obviously really good into light units, and I'm pretty sure the only downside I have with her is just the simple 30% counter chance, and more every now and then. Pretty much because of the way I don't have imprints, I needed to play her on HP boots because I don't have enough imprints to run her on a speed boot. I did still really like Hwayoung, but the only downside is literally just hoping for her to counter, which I guess is just a part of the game. But it did cost like a lot of games because you're just begging for her to counter attack. But she was just definitely very strong. Anyways, that was the account overview. It took me a while to get that out, but I'm pretty sure that's every single unit that I use for this season. Just taking a quick scroll through, but I don't think there's anything that really popped out to me. I didn't use Solitaria. Oh, Elvira's here. Elvira was a good counter pick into Teu during the end of the season. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think we use her anywhere else. She didn't feel that useful. And yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else I pretty much use for this season. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That was my whole entire account. So bye bye.